Good evening. My name is Kim Hess. I'm a proud mother of 3 beautiful children. I'm the mother of Cassidy Hess. I shouldn't be up here tonight on this stage. I shouldn't be standing up here talking about suicide and Cassidy in the same breath. But unfortunately, this is my family's reality. And this is the aftermath of what suicide looks like. It's ugly, it's devastating, and it's permanent. It has left our family completely broken, and we will never be the same without our precious Cassidy. And the hardest part of it all is that we still don't know why. This is Cassidy's story. Suicide does not look and feel the same for each person it takes. Cassidy didn't fit that typical mold that you'd expect from a suicide victim. She wasn't depressed, she wasn't bullied, she wasn't unhappy. In fact, she was the happiest, funniest, most free-spirited person you would ever meet. I mean, look at these photos. She loved her friends and she loved life. She was always the girl with the biggest smile on her face, and she always found random ways to make people laugh. She had the kindest heart, and she was the nicest person you would ever meet. She was popular. She was a varsity cheerleader at College Park. She had the best group of friends. She cheered with these friends. She went to church camp with these friends. She did Bible study with them. She was an NCL with them. They are all great kids. Cassidy could have gone to any one of these friends and let them know if something was wrong, but she didn't. She could have gone to any one of us, her family, but she didn't. Cassidy kept silent. There's something in the word silent that resonates. A song titled "The Sound of Silence" keeps popping up randomly since Cassidy's death. There is meaning behind this song, and I feel there's a reason why I keep hearing it over and over. The sound of silence. This was Cassidy. She was silent about her true feelings, about what was bothering her on the inside, and what was making her feel like she just couldn't go on. Cassidy never liked to talk about anything personal or anything that really bothered her. Trying to get Cassidy to open up was like pulling teeth. She hated it. She'd rather put on her happy face and tell me that everything was fine than to talk about anything that was bothering her. She kept it all inside. I never knew just how much she was keeping inside. She was silent, and like the song says, silence, like a cancer, grows. It grew too big and too powerful until it just took over. December 14th, the day that changed our family forever. It was a Monday before finals week. Everything seemed routine that day. I told Cassidy goodbye, and I loved her when she left for school like I always do. I knew she had been stressed about school and finals. She was struggling in a couple of classes. I talked to one of her teachers that morning, and she assured me that Cassidy would be fine. As I would later find out, Cassidy was sad all day during school. Her friends told me that she was crying throughout the day, and that she was just really sad, which was so unlike Cassidy. Cassidy never showed sadness. She always had a beautiful smile on her face. Not this day. All of her friends asked her what was wrong because they knew that she was not her usual silly self. Each time, she said nothing. She kept silent. She was still crying about the last period, cheer class. Her coach pulled her aside and asked her what was wrong because she could see that Cassidy was obviously upset about something. She went down the list and asked Cassidy all the questions that a teacher is supposed to ask when they feel a student isn't acting right. And Cassidy answered every question perfectly. She knew how to hide her feelings. She knew exactly how to keep silent. Cassidy came home after school as planned that day. She called me when she got home around 3:30, and we talked briefly. I reminded her that she needed to be ready for her tutor at 4:30. She asked me what time would I be home. I told her around 4 o'clock because I had to pick Peyton and Hunter up from school first. Well, I didn't make it back to the house until about 4:15, a little later than what I had told Cassidy. That 45-minute window was all it took to change our lives forever. When I got home that day, it was just too late. I found Cassidy hanging, and our family will never be the same again. The way, the timing and the details of it all took place, we believe that Cassie didn't mean to do what she did. She didn't mean to go through with it. We truly believe that Cassidy was just desperately crying out for help and wanted me to find her and stop her in time. But timing was not on her side that day, and everything just went horribly wrong. We feel that Cassidy must have had the perfect storm that day. All the things that were just bothering her, confusing her, putting pressure on her, hurting her, whatever they were, they just all weighed so heavily on her heart that day that for some reason she just couldn't see the light. She couldn't have known that what she was about to do would be permanent, that there would be no chance to take it back. She was not in her right state of mind at that moment. It must have felt like she didn't have any way out. She just didn't take time to think it through. The EMS arrived quickly, and after working on Cassidy for about 40 minutes, they were able to bring her back to life. That gave us so much hope. You can only imagine the joy and relief that we had at that moment. We were off to Memorial Hermann in the Woodlands. They ran tests and found that there was brain activity, and that gave us even more hope. Next thing we knew, she was life-flighted to Memorial Hermann downtown. We prayed nonstop on the way down there, praying to God to give us a second chance with our baby, that we would make sure that she never felt alone, confused, or pain again. We begged him to spare this precious girl because she had done no wrong. We knew at that moment that we would need God now more than ever, and that it was all in his hands. Shortly after we arrived downtown, Dr. Murrell, College Park principal, arrived to give us his love and support, and that meant so much to us. We cried and talked and hugged for just a few minutes, and before he left, I asked him, as principal, what he was going to do with this tragic information. He said that he would do whatever we wanted him to do. So Jed and I thought about it for a moment, and after knowing that the word was quickly spreading like wildfire, we asked him to send a message to the school, set the facts straight, and simply let everyone know that Cassidy was still alive, and we needed all the prayers that she can get. And that's exactly what he did. The message was sent out overnight, and once the word spread, prayers started pouring in. We were so grateful for each and every one. We had faith that God would hear all these prayers for our beautiful girl and heal her. We never doubted for a second. We never lost faith. Cassidy remained on life support and fought hard for 6 heart-wrenching days in ICU. These are the longest 6 days of our lives. She never opened her eyes. She never woke up. Family and close friends came up and prayed with us over Cassidy. Pastors from our church, this church, came daily and prayed. Pastors from other churches that didn't even know us came and prayed over Cassidy. It was so unbelievable to us how many people cared about Cassidy and our family. Prepared meals, baskets of letters and cards, plants, flowers, crosses, blankets. They were all delivered to our house in the hospital. People who never knew us but heard of our story and what a beautiful person Cassidy was just wrapped their arms around our family that week. We felt the love, and I know Cassidy did too. The prayers continued outside the walls of the hospital. The kids prayed every morning at Cassidy's parking spot. They gathered at our church every day after school to pray and to be together, to help each other understand all of this. Students that had never stepped foot inside a church before went to church and prayed for Cassidy. They gathered at each other's houses at night and prayed. It was truly incredible to see how this young community pulled together, how much love and support and compassion was coming out of this. We continue to hear the stories while we were in the hospital that week, stories of love for Cassidy, love for our family, and just love for one another. It made our hearts stronger to hear us, and it gave us so much hope that God was working his miracle through Cassidy to reach this community. Cassidy grew weaker, and we could slowly see the once happy, energetic life slowly leave our baby girl. That Sunday, December 20th, was the darkest, hardest days of our lives. We kissed our baby one last time and told her how much we love her and to save us a place in heaven because we would see her again. Christmas was a blur. We buried Cassidy the day after Christmas, the second hardest day of our lives. It was over now. Now what? Where do we go from here? The next few months came and went, and we don't really remember too much of them. We did what we had to do to get by, and that's about it. The kids went back to school, and we eventually went back to work, but our hearts were broken. Our lives had been shattered. Our dreams had been crushed. Luckily, we had each other. Jed and I knew when we were in the hospital those 6 devastating days that this could either make us or break us. We vowed that this would not break us, that evil will not destroy this family. For better or worse, we will make it together. So now it's been 4 months since that horrible day. We still don't know why. I don't think we'll ever know that answer. So that doesn't make it any easier to pick up the pieces and try to move forward. Luckily, we are blessed with 2 more beautiful children that give us a reason to move forward, even though the last piece of our family will always be missing. Our recovery will be through God and our faith. Even though we didn't get the miracle we prayed for and we know Cassidy deserved, and we don't understand God's big plan, we have faith that there is a plan. We don't believe it was God's intention for Cassidy to take her life, but that something good may come of this tragedy and might help someone else. Cassidy's story can help spread his message of love and compassion and caring. Just be kind to one another. We never know when someone is struggling on the inside because we don't like to show our vulnerability. We like to showcase our good side and show that we are strong and smart and beautiful. We are all weak at times. We all have problems. We all have insecurities. We just don't show them. We want everyone to think that we are okay all the time. We forget how to communicate through our words and voices and not through a text message. We hide our true thoughts and feelings behind electronics, and once again, we are silent. You can be whoever you want to be behind your Facebook page or Snapchat. You can take 79 selfies before you find the one that is good enough to actually post on Instagram, but not before editing so much that it no longer resembles the real you. We live in a world of instant gratification, so much that we don't always think through our decisions and actions before we push send. Our technology allows us to live in real time all the time. We send and receive live photos and videos of things that we don't need to be sharing before we really stop and think about what we're sharing and who are we sharing with and who can they hurt. But how much of this is actually real? How much of this actually matters? As teenagers, it all matters. It matters way too much. A teenager only lives in the here and now. Sometimes they don't understand the permanence of their decisions, how it can change, ruin, or even end their lives. We all have to end the silence. We have to get our kids to talk to us, to talk to each other. We have to put away the phones and use our voices. We have to let each other know how much they mean to us through our words, not through emojis. A simple verbal, "How are you doing? Are you okay? You look like you need a hug today," could make the difference between choosing life and choosing death for someone. Just be kind to one another. You never know what someone is feeling on the inside, especially with Cassidy. She was the happiest person on the outside, but was obviously dying on the inside. I was afraid to talk tonight. I was afraid to reveal my vulnerability, my confusion, my guilt, my angriness, my pain. I knew that this would put my family out there and open us up for judgment. But you know what? I don't care. We don't care. We know there is a much stronger and important message to be said and learned here through all this pain. While we thought we gave Cassidy the perfect life, we now know that we missed something. We don't know what that was, but we know we are not the perfect family. If we were, then we would have our beautiful girl here with us today. We sometimes say and feel like we live in this bubble here in the Woodlands, that as long as we keep our kids close, we can protect them and keep them out of harm's way. But sometimes our bubble can feel more like a vacuum that just sucks the life out of our kids. They have more pressures and distractions than we did when we were kids. It's time to slow down. have meaningful conversations with our children, and make sure that they know they can always have someone to talk to. They always have a way out. It's time to break the silence. It's time to stop tiptoeing around the word suicide because of the ugly stigma attached to it. It's time to stop thinking that we're protecting our children by not having the heavy conversations about suicide and mental illness. We never think that our lives will be affected by suicide. That only happens to the disturbed or sick people who obviously need help. Well, let me tell you, Cassidy was neither sick or disturbed, and yet she fell victim. She was your typical happy teenager finding her way in this fast-paced world. She did not come from a broken home. She was not abused. She was not bullied. She was loved. She was encouraged and supported, and she knew it. But she didn't communicate. Communication is the lifeline for our teens. Please, every child, every teen, every person in this audience, talk to each other. Cassidy did not have to die. She knew that we would support her and be there for her no matter what situation she was facing, but she didn't even give us the chance. She didn't reach out to us when she needed us the most. If she would just talk to us, if she would just talk to one person, she would still be here. Cassidy's story does not end here. If this message reaches just one person in need and helps save just one confused person before it's too late, then making our story an open book is worth it. I was sure that after Cassidy's suicide, after the entire community started talking about it and saw firsthand the repercussions of it, that there would certainly be no more. Unfortunately, I was wrong. Since her suicide, there have been many more within our own backyards. Let's stop this tragic trend, as they now call it, from happening to any more of our friends, our babies. Let's talk about suicide and the permanent results it leaves so that we can understand that suicide is not the answer to anything. Life is worth living. Thank you.